And hello again. After a short summer holiday vacation break, we are back in our Everyone Can Contribute cafe. And for today, we thought about talking about SLOs and SLO management. And from, actually, it was a fun tweet series yesterday. And I want to quickly share my screen so that you know what I'm talking about. Like Kit was asking the hello world of SLOs, and I thought about, well, let's do a prompt curl query because Prometheus and stuff. And Matthias jumped in and said, hey, we should talk about Pyrra, and making SLOs with Prometheus manageable, accessible, and easy to use for everyone. And there's a demo and everything else. And was like, okay. And I think at a certain point, Niklas jumped in and said, hey, we can totally talk about this today. And so we made it happen. Maybe we will touch base with Nobl9 and OpenSLO later on. But for now, I would just say, maybe let's do a quick, short round of introductions. And I just want to say, pick one in the gallery. I'll pick Matthias. Who are you? Short introduction.
Who am I? I'm Matthias. I'm based in Berlin. I work for a new startup called Polar Signals, and we actually don't do anything with SLOs as a product. We build performance tooling to basically have continuous profiling, and that's what I do during my day job, basically, but we also have to run stuff. And I also previously worked at Red Hat, where we had to run a hosted Prometheus internally based on Thanos. And that's where running anything really, where SLOs really shine. I learned about the SRE books, and then came to know about the amazing book that Alex Hidalgo wrote on SLOs. And I don't know, I got involved into the Kubernetes mix and added SLOs there, and the SLO lib sonnet, small JSON generator for SLOs. So I've been around SLOs quite some time, but I have something new and it's exciting to share now. And with that, let's just straight go to Nadine, and then she can pick the next person.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm working in the UX design team at Grafana Labs. And before I started this open source project with Matthias, for me to learn a little bit more about SLOs and from the design perspective. And also I'm based in Berlin. Now I will pick Niklas.
Okay. My name is Niklas. Currently, what I am doing at work is doing only buzzwords. So I'm doing blockchain and Kubernetes mostly for money. And of course, we need also to monitor all that stuff. And I'm also curious about learning about SLOs and also about all the other topics. In this today's session, that's it from my side. So I will hand over to Zachary.
Howdy, folks. My name is Zach Nickens. I work for a company called OutSystems, where I run a SRE team across the US, the EU, and APAC. I'm located in San Antonio, Texas. So I'm one of the co-organizers of the SRE meetup. And so I'm deeply interested in all things SLOs and all things SRE. So I'm very excited to be here with everybody and to see the exciting new stuff that we get to see today. I'll throw it over to Kit.
Hey guys, Kit Merker here. I'm kind of a Twitter slow guy, I guess is the best way to describe it. But I've been involved with the SRE meetup with Zach. I started SLOConf, if you're familiar with that. It was a little event we threw. Yeah, see, Matthias has it. But I'm the COO at Nobl9, and I'm trying to make sure that software runs reasonably reliable. And I'll pass it over to somebody from my team, Sal.
Hey there, thanks, Kit. As Kit said, I also work for Nobl9. My name's Sal. I'm their first CRE. I started really getting interested in SRE when I read the famous Google book in about 2017 or so, and it really was like the eureka moment for me in terms of how infrastructure should be run at scale. Fast forward a couple years, I found this guy, Alex Hidalgo on Twitter, started following him, and then I read his book. Next thing you know, I got a job at Nobl9, and I'm ending up here with all you folks. I'm going to pass it on here to Packet Zero. Hopefully I'm reading that lead speak right.
Yes, that's right. So my name is Benjamin, and what I mainly do is I focus on security. So I do Kubernetes and cloud security stuff. But I'm currently still a student, so I'm doing my bachelor in Bochum. And yes, that's what I currently do. I mostly do security for Kubernetes and cloud. I will pass the word to Philip.
Hi, I'm Philip, also from Berlin. I'm a senior Kubernetes DevOps engineer at White Duck, mostly doing consulting on Azure with Kubernetes, and I have absolutely no idea about SLOs and monitoring. So I'm the right target group today, I guess. I will pass over to our long not seen friend, Max.
Yes, very, very long not seen. Does my sound still work? Okay, I have not used Zoom in half a year, so yeah, so I'm super surprised by the amount of people here today. Yeah, I'm Max. I'm also based in Germany, currently living in Görlitz. And yeah, I'm working as a system engineer. The Germans from you probably know the hosting company Hetzner, where I work and keep the cloud running. And yeah, happy to meet you all here. Next can be Johannes. Or Johannes, don't know.
Johannes, it's German.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Johannes. I'm also based in Germany. I work for Deutsche Bahn, German railway company, especially DB Systel. And I'm a DevOps engineer there. And we run multiple clusters of Amazon CMS, content management system. And we are also interested in SLOs and monitoring. And I think I can learn a lot here. So who wasn't? I give over to Daniel.
Hi, I'm Daniel Fell. I'm in North Carolina in the US. I work for Nobl9. Actually, Kit is my manager. So I'm one of the SEs at Nobl9, got really interested in SLOs and how they worked about 9 months ago, and eventually came over to Nobl9 and enjoy helping customers understand SLOs and make their environment more reliable. And I'll try Nicholas.
I was already, but no problem.
Sorry.
No, I think we missed only Nada probably. Then we have everyone.
Yeah, I still haven't gone. Hi, everybody. This is Nader Mortazavi. I am another sales solution engineer at Nobl9, and I work with Daniel and Sal, and Kit is my manager as well. Very happy to be here. I recently started at Nobl9, and previously I was working at New Relic. And as some of you might know, New Relic is a monitoring tool. And one of the major things that we really couldn't solve in New Relic, I'm sorry, it's almost loud in here. Yeah, one of the major things that we couldn't solve in New Relic was just the fact that we can bring all of our informations in one tool to understand what are the SLOs that our customers could have worked. But that is the problem that Nobl9 is solving. So I got very, very excited about this, and I've been joining the team for a month, and I'm here to learn a lot as well. Thank you. I don't think, is there anybody, has Max gone? I'm not sure. Okay, I think we got everybody.
We missed Michael, I think. Go on, Michael, come on.
I saw that I can fly under the radar. Hi, my name is Mike Wagner. I'm a senior product manager and senior software engineer at the company called ZKW. We are part of the LG Corporation, and we build headlamp for the automotive industry. And my main part is my day job is to build high performance applications like CAD systems or ray tracing, such stuff. I'm also, like Philip, pretty new to SLOs, so I'm also more or less the target audience for today. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks everyone for the kind introduction. So we have like a diverse audience today. And with that, I would just say we're all waiting for learning more about Pyrra. Matthias and Nadine, do you want to kick us off?
Sure thing. Yeah, let me quickly, as I said, we hadn't had a lot of time to prepare, but whoa, that's like super big. How's that looking for you? Because I have an ultra wide screen. Let me know.
Perfect.
Looks good. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so basically, we're here to talk about Pura. I think that's how I pronounce it from like the Greek wording, but Pyrra, whatever, is fine as well. And Nadine and I, as Nadine kind of mentioned, set out to making SLOs with Prometheus more manageable, accessible, and easy to use for everybody. That's the slogan. Yeah, like in the process, kind of like started, I think like in spring sometime. So Nadine wants to walk you through a bit of the process that we took, and then I think we can afterwards talk about a bit more about SLOs in general, just to yeah, get going with that, because Nadine has to drop in like 50 minutes for another meeting. Nadine, you wanna go ahead?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Matthias. Yeah, so I can imagine that you're curious also about the process. So I would like to dive there a little bit deeper. So first, maybe Matthias, could you do? Yeah, thanks. So first, we synced a little bit about our ideas, Matthias and I, but also we conducted user interviews, which was really great to have all these insights. And from these user interviews, we then generated some main insights we found. And these are how might we statements. So to put ourselves into the user's minds, we came up with these statements from interviews and also from testing. So for example, how might we create a very minimalistic UI to really guide users? And how can we showcase actionable steps? And how could it be just an MVP, which is extensionable in the future? Yeah, and for this MVP and for feature prioritization, we used, next slide, please. We used different methods, for example, this one. And as you can see here, we came up with must-haves and could-haves, also should-haves, and won't-haves, which we would like to include in the future. And as a next step, yeah, we iterated a lot on these, and yeah, and still iterating a lot. And the next one already. Yeah, and the testing we did with this prototype, which Matthias wants to explain a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, so we basically started while figuring out all of these things, we also started hacking on this, or yeah, like on this prototype kind of MVP thing that isn't supposed to look anything fancy, but it's kind of proving, are we showing the correct things? Is it kind of like in line with all the research and all the interviews that we did? And can we build something that based on our recent experience, yeah, using SLOs, that would be like helpful as like an open source product that you can run next to a Prometheus instance, basically. So we kind of started like these things like in parallel, but then like kind of like they kind of like influence each other, right? So a lot of these things that you can see already here came from the research, and then we kind of like iterated back into the design process as well. And for the last slide, we basically just took that and yeah, just really uplifted this with some design guidance, spacing, colors, and really make this something that is enjoyable to use, because we all know Prometheus as a UI, and I do love the project, but yeah, that's like always missing with Prometheus itself. And yeah, that's like almost all there is for the slides. And I can just show you the live projects, or maybe before that, are there any questions people have already? All right, we'll talk about a bit more on how to set things up and so on.
I think Nicholas had a question. Or
yeah, I was a little bit too slow. So it's only about the naming. Why is the H missing in Pyrra for the Greek god?
Yeah, good question. We basically, yeah, we had the idea to use that one. It's like, I think the niece of Prometheus, but yeah, the spelling I think also was kind of like a bunch of people already use it for different products, not only like software, and then kind of hard to spell. We also asked like.
We also did user testing. So we asked a lot of people, and yeah, with an H, it would be very hard for some.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Thanks for that.
Exactly. So basically, it's a typo, but it's on purpose to make it easy. Yeah, and then yeah, you can see the UI and kind of yeah, something that now is usable is this hosted demo. You can find it on demo.pura.dev, and it is essentially just like a Docker Compose setup running a Prometheus in the back end. So always from here, you can always open Prometheus running in the background and just use Prometheus as you know it. But then obviously you have this like more specific UI, which still is like the MVP, as we said. It is something that is like evolving. And we have multi-burn rate alerts, and all of this, all of what you see is generated from the config. And I think like given that most people are engineers, that's probably what you were like kind of like waiting for. So in Pura, kind of the idea was to really have the user just specify metrics for errors and the total amount of events that happened, right? So SLOs themselves work by always counting the errors against the total amount of events, and over time you kind of like measure how many errors there are. And so for example, you want the objective up here is like 90% of the requests should be successful, and then you measure the actual successful events that happen in the system that you're looking at, and then kind of the inverse. So out of like these 90% that you have as the objective, the inverse of that would be that 10% can actually fail. So that is usually called the error budget. And then what in SLOs we always talk about is that we kind of want to be within this, like these, like in this case, like 10% that we have kind of, yeah, as a budget to work with. So right now we still have 33% of the error budget. And the math behind this is somewhat, it's doable, obviously, but you kind of like need to dedicate like an afternoon or two to really understanding what's going on. So yeah, the project kind of had this idea of using just like these metrics that you know, like metric selectors basically, to count the errors and the total amount of events, and then everything that kind of like comes from that happens in the background. So for example, from the total amount of requests that happen, we can see like the requests per second, right? And that is probably something that you are quite familiar with Prometheus. So if we open this up, you can see we do want to have a rate over 5 minutes and then kind of graph that. So Pura takes the metric that we have in here and then really just like, it doesn't just like template these, it actually parses the metric, the queries, and then does like a full-on substitution of the metrics, right? And for example, for the errors as well, we do have in here now the rate over the total amount of requests, but then we kind of like divide the errors by the total amount, and then we get the percentage of errors that happened. And in this demo, it happens hourly at exactly, like on the hour always. There are some errors, so we can see that this just happened when we started the meeting. And then as we kind of like progress, like these were kind of like usually what people are kind of familiar with, right? And then again, the system or like Pura itself can take these metrics and construct these rather complicated or like these metrics that these queries that you need to kind of understand, and it does that all based on that config you give at the bottom, right? So in here we said we have this error metric, we have this total metric, and then we have the target, and we want to look at this over 4 weeks in this example. And Pyrra takes all of this information and generates these queries for you as well. And as we can see, we have the 90% objective over 4 weeks, and then kind of like, really generates the thing, so you don't really need to understand why upfront at least. And most importantly, we basically just looked at querying. Most importantly, we want to alert on these, right? And there's something called the multi-error burn rates in the books, and I'm sure we can discuss these in a bit as well if there are questions. We want to use the same metrics in the background and generate the rules, and most importantly, as I said, the alerting rules. So if we look at these, we see that we do get the multi-error burn rates for 1 hour and 5 minutes, for example. So these are combined. And then the same is true for 6 hours and 30 minutes in this case, because we had a window of 4 weeks, I think, for the demo. And the way this is kind of like wired up is that Prometheus gets these alerting rules and recording rules and then loads them into its system. And going forward, let's demo hourly. Exactly. So we have like recording rules for the burn rate of 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, etc. And then at the end, we have like the error budget burn alert here, where the things get really kind of like complicated in a way that this is why people usually at least like use a generator to generate these things, because you need 4 of them and they're somewhat intricate. And when you change one thing, you want all of them to change, right? So yeah, this is what you get with Pura out of the box. It has like the UI that generates the queries for you based on the config, and then it will also generate the alerts and put them into Prometheus, and then you can hook that up to a alert manager, and that will, whatever you have configured in alert manager, send Slack or PagerDuty notifications when something actually happens and you burn too much error budget. And yeah, that's kind of it right now. As I said, it's just an MVP, and we started a couple of months ago working on this, and we do hope for contributors and participants from the community, because this is just a free time project. And yeah, we we really want to invite people to join this effort. And one of the things I want to kind of contribute or like work on in the future is, you might have seen the config is something specific to Pura itself, and there's a standardization process going on called OpenSLO, and we really would like to support this as well. So we could integrate with, for example, Sloth, another similar tool that's out there, or the folks from Nobl9, for example. So it really becomes something where Pura you can just put on the Prometheus that you run on your, I don't know, like home server in the basement. And then for more serious things, you can always go to Nobl9, for example, as well. So they can back you up with some support, etc. So yeah, that's Pura. I don't know. More questions?
Maybe first, because I have to jump to another meeting, are there any UX specific questions maybe?
I don't have a question. I just want to say it looks great. So thanks for your hard work on this bedtime project. And hopefully see you soon online in the future. Thanks for joining today. Yeah, and have a great evening after your call. For the tool itself, I think we talked about before the meeting today, before the cafe. How does this tie into the OpenSLO specification, Matthias and also Kit and everyone else? Is this something like on the roadmap? How can we achieve that, and how can we like place Nobl9 into the picture?
Well, it's interesting. I think hello, sorry, am I mute?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to actually have Daniel show some Prometheus and Nobl9 if it's all right, because I think this is a really interesting use case here as we think about the OpenSLO slow YAML format that we're using to make, sort of the GitOps workflow around SLOs, and then taking the sort of hello world data from being able to generate and render these SLOs, and then be able to show them in kind of a production ready system so that we can start doing less math and getting more sleep. It's kind of the big idea of SLOs, right? We can focus our energy on solving reliability issues and being productive for customers. I don't know. Do you guys want to see what Daniel has? I think he tried to get this working before the meeting here. Or is there more to show in your demo, Matthias?
I guess, yeah, we can definitely look kind of like at your demo. I think it really nicely fits because like I definitely want to support OpenSLO, as I said. That's something on the roadmap, and I've actually talked to Chabé, I think his name was pronounced, from the Sloth project, who already integrated with OpenSLO. So that's definitely something like, so it doesn't even matter if you're using Pura or Sloth, or you want to like upgrade to Nobl9 as a hosted service. Yeah, that's definitely something I'm happy to support, and like I already plan on doing. I just didn't have time yet, as always is the case. But yeah, like we can like continue with this. We can like play around with SLOs, see how things turn out. But yeah, I'm happy to just look at the Nobl9 demo for sure.
Yeah, maybe let's just dive into the Nobl9 demo and get an additional picture, like
exactly
a Lego brick, and then we try coming back and say, hey, how can we combine everything to advance? Now, hoping that you will go.
Okay, bye. I have to go. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for all.
All right, Daniel, you got it?
For your work.
Yeah, let me share my screen. So hopefully everybody can see my screen now.
Yeah, we see your full screen. So if you want to show
cool. So what you're seeing here is some SLOs we've created from Prometheus data. You can take a look at these, and you can see, typical Prometheus requests. to get the metrics point. And from the metrics point, we're calculating the reliability burn down, your error budget, and your error budget burn rate. So, you know, as we pull the data from these SLIs, that's what this blue line is here. We're actually just burning down the error budget, and you can kind of see where the burn down rate is taking place. The nice thing about this is we are looking forward, and we do everything inside of these as we convert to OpenSLO YAML. So you should be able to start with one project and move to another as you need it and as your needs change. So keeping things very open. This is the YAML that we use. We have a binary here called slow cuddle that makes it very easy for you to grab your slows from our system and then put that into a file, maybe upload that into a Git repo, and then you can use a GitHub action to do that. So the vision for us is to make it where you can create slows without having to worry about doing the math or spending those days and hours trying to make that work, and handling this for you. So we also support quite a few other integrations on here. So if you have other systems, we're constantly adding things right now. So these are all listed in our product, but you can also look on our website, and I can post something to the Slack channel later. But the nice thing about it is it definitely, you know, if you start with Matthias's project, you can easily come to our project. You know, that's one of the beauties of OpenSLO. Any questions about how we do this, why we do it?
Yeah, I just want to point out that like your support for different integrations is quite a lot more than what we have. Like we definitely only support Prometheus, right? And that's like our goal. But I think, yeah, like kind of like having the Nobl9 service is amazing for having all of these different integrations for sure. One of the questions, like given that you tried setting up with a demo, but was like a bit short on time, is like, how do you actually get the data into your system? And kind of like, I guess it's like, I don't really need to care about like how it's stored, but like, yeah, how do you integrate with these different services? Like, and obviously Prometheus being the one I'm interested in.
What we do for Prometheus is we have integrations, and you will just go through a Prometheus one real quick. We have an agent that you configure, and you'll need to give the URL. So in your case, actually, I have your URL configured in mine. So we'll go to my personal one. So you just need a URL. And then once you get that URL, we give you a Docker container that you can run. So you can either run it inside of Kubernetes or Docker. So you just fire that up. This is a very lightweight container. You can see I have a Docker desktop running on this Mac here. I run quite a few of these agents on the Mac, but on my personal desktop to do it. But you can put this in your own Kubernetes. Very lightweight, is Telegraph based. So what it does is it takes the query that you write. So in this case, for yours, I was taking your queries. So take your regular prom queries and put them in just like you normally would to configure the threshold. My agent is having a little bit of a problem talking, but once you get the data source in, the ratio metric is already there. You can define the time window that you want, either rolling or calendar aligned. And then your error budget. So the target for this one we agreed was 90%. And then from there, just standard names, labels, and where to look at this particular page. But the agent is the best way to get them in. You can also do different alert methods in here. So we have integrations for alert methods. So if you have PagerDuty or Discord or ServiceNow or Slack system like we're using here for the OpenSLO Slack channel, one of the new things that we've done is this custom webhook. So this allows you to send agent or send alerts to to a system that you've built. So this will allow you to, in your CI process, if you wanted to put up errors, hey, we are burning error budget at a pretty high %. We can put an error up to warn developers or, warn teams that our application, maybe needs to focus more on reliability and less on new features. So any questions?
Do have a follow-up if no one else has any questions.
Go ahead.
So Pura supports like the multi-arrow burn rates. Like how do you do the alerting with Nobl9? Like you said, you configure the agent, the data shows up, and then you just tell people, right? But is there like anything specific, as we said, like multi-arrow burn rates are mentioned in the books? Do you have that as well, or okay, so you can configure basically whatever your needs are? Or?
Yep, you could do when your error budget would be exhausted, which is in this one days, hours, or minutes, and the condition is going to last for hours or minutes. Probably the most popular one for people that are new in SLOs is doing the remaining error budget is, so if you have something based off 30 days or a 30-day error budget and you have 10% less and you're in the 10th day of that 30-day process, time to call together, your stakeholders and your customers and say, hey, come up with a plan, right? We also allow you to do the average error burn rate. We find this is very popular for people who are pretty advanced with SLOs, because this would allow you to see, like maybe you put out a new version of your project or something and your burn rate is kicked up a little bit. So you can see when things are going to go wrong a little bit quicker than you would in your standard, monitoring condition. And then once you pick one of these alert conditions that you want to do, it's a simple thing of just signing it, putting a display name, picking your severity level, high, medium, or low, and then test here so I can get past. And then how do you want to send the alert message through, either through Discord, Opsgenie, ServiceNow, Slack, or a webhook, or Jira if you want to create a Jira ticket. So creating Jira tickets, you create Jira tickets. This is some of the ones that I've created. It gives you a nice little alert. You can put whatever in here you need. So very handy for things that you've created SLOs on that are what I call a slow burn, that you need to have someone not necessarily look at today, but maybe look at tomorrow and follow up on and keep tracking the Jira ticket.
Do you also, sorry?
Does that answer the questions?
Yeah, for sure. I was going to make a joke about like, do you have a SLO on how many people open the Jira tickets and look at them? But I guess that's out of your zone, right?
We should definitely, we should probably try to create one.
Yeah. No, it's very neat for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
I have a question around, like, if I'm a beginner with SLOs and like using all the different tools, where should I be starting? Should I be looking into Pyrra? Should I be looking into Nobl9? What is like the best learning experience? What is the best journey to get an immediate success with SLOs? What is your opinion on that?
Me personally? Obviously, I think we do, a pretty good job with it at Nobl9. It really depends. It depends on budget and what you're trying to accomplish. So, I mean, if you don't have a high budget, maybe, a free tool will do the job for you. Also recommend you picking up Alex Hidalgo's book, Implementing Service Level Objectives. It's an O'Reilly book. That's where I started learning about SLOs and to do them. And actually I started figuring things out and calculating them on spreadsheets. So I learned a lot about, how to do the math and how to do it that way.
I wanted to add, the one thing I've seen a lot recently, I've talked to a lot of customers and users trying to do SLOs, and one of the common behaviors I see is people say, well, we're not ready for it. We're not ready to do SLOs. We got to wait until, our system gets reliable and sophisticated and all this kind of stuff. And the reality, what we see in people who are successful is they put the SLOs first. They get the SLOs in place because it tells them where they want to go and what they're trying to measure and what they're trying to accomplish. And then all the investments that they make and improvements and everything else have a lot more meaning, a lot more focus. And so we definitely encourage people to look for how to create SLOs from the data they have, like what's readily available, what raw material do you have now that you can create a not perfect SLO, but something that gives you a baseline to get started. And then, hey, you want to go and adopt a new computing platform or a new CI/CD system or a new telemetry stack or whatever, you can actually start to understand if it's making it better, worse, or about the same, right? And I think that's a really powerful thing for people to realize, that they don't need to, first go make a big investment. It's like, oh, I need to lose a bunch of weight before I start going to the gym. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. We want to start weighing yourself every day, start doing the better behaviors, start trying to make better decisions, and then the destination will be that better reliability and efficiency, which is what we're really trying to get. SLOs are not the destination. They're a tool to help you, along the way.
Yeah, 100% agree. One thing that I mentioned in the OpenSLO, not OpenSLO, in the SLOconf talk that Frederick and I did was really look at data that you have, as Kit just said, and then what I really love doing is basically go from kind of like the load balancer or somewhere like kind of like super close to the user, and then just set something very generic almost, and then try to take it one step at a time, and like trying to get further down into your system, trying to really just like get more specific afterwards. But I think that's as Kit said, like you can just start, like you probably have load balancer metrics even if you don't know about them. So like just having those, you can already start with them today and not wait until whenever, and then just like improve on those in the future. And then because I mentioned the SLOconf next to the book that Alex wrote, I want to shout out to all the videos and all the speakers from SLOconf that Nobl9 hosted. I do think, especially for beginners, there are fantastic talks in there also from Michi, who is hosting us now, and different vendors, different people from the community really came together, and it's an amazing set of videos. You can just spend hours if you feel like it, learning about SLOs.
Hey, Matthias, how long did you say that you've been working on Pyrra?
A couple of months. I think it's kind of cheating because I've been like working on SLOs for 2 years at this point, and kind of like trying to put them in place at Red Hat before, and so I came with like a bunch of experience, right? And a lot of the generating the queries also came from the SLO LibSonnet tool that I wrote that had generated PromQL with JSON in it. So yeah, like it's a bit of cheating saying I only worked 4 months on this, but on the tool itself, it's
super impressive. And I think like in picking out a place to start, right? And so I think the more things like this that we see in our community makes it easier for people to get started, right? And this is something that we can pick up. You can have no budget, right? And you can implement something like this. And I would expect, how long would an implementation for this tool to take for someone with like a fair amount of Prometheus knowledge? I don't feel like this is a giant lift. And so even if you, I feel like if I wanted to introduce SLOs into an org and maybe I don't have the budget or I don't have the buy-in yet, I could start with a project like this and start showing very early benefits to getting SLOs in place. And I think that can help, an engineer in an org go get buy-in and build up to making a decision point of like, okay, we definitely see that we need SLOs in place before we try to do hardcore reliability engineering. And that can be a way to earn budget and earn buy-in before you go and you make an investment in a tool like Nobl9 or one of the other vendors that's out there. I think leveraging things that the community is doing, right? Like this project, like the Sloth project, like SLOconf. I think that's the best place to start. is just reaching out to somebody in the community, especially from SLOconf, and saying like, hey, I'm interested in getting started. Can you give me a hand? Can you point me in the right direction?
Yeah, and I would also to see that so that we can also come from different points, right? So we're coming up from operating into production and see, you know, how your application is behaved. But probably also a good point is that you're starting from the other way when you're starting developing your application, literally, and seeing, giving your developers the possibility also to see the metrics and probably also have quality gates on that and saying, okay, hey, we should stop now at that way because probably our application is behaving differently than accepted and doing afterwards an automatic redetermination. So I think there are different ways to tackle that. But I really liked, so with approach, though, with the simplest one, and probably also that you need to have a lot of data. So probably 2 or 3 metrics are enough for doing all the stuff here. So it's not like that you need 100 metrics to get all the information. And probably what's also here important is what I currently see, or when I started with metrics was, okay, a lot of tools or a lot of stuff is bringing a little bit more noise. But what we are literally every time where we're talking, what's it's important, we are talking here about signals, and signals should be only 3 or 4, or what is the human capable to take off. Not that we need to have 100 metrics and no one is looking at that anymore. So then we can say, okay, we don't need this metrics anymore because no one is using it. Or the system can take part of it, but then we need to have predefined rules like the burn rates and all the stuff with the SLOs so that we automatically evaluation will take place. But yeah, and also for that, for doing the delivery stuff, there are also currently tools out there in the cloud native space. So for example, from the cloud native space, we have Captain here. So when you want to go to Captain SH, so you can also do their it's a tool coming from the Dynatrace, where they're doing exactly this job coming from the development side, and they want to do it like really when you want to do continuous deployment, because a lot of people talking about continuous delivery, and probably continuous deployment is another level where we are talking about. So when you really want to go right directly from your development machine into production into amount of time, so mostly about 1 hour or something like that. That's also for different people, and also you're given the flexibility to define it in own way. Not everyone needs to deploy in 50 minutes. Not everyone needs to probably deploy every day. So also some people needs to deploy only once a month. So, and that everyone has here the flexibility and mostly calculating all the stuff. So doing all the changes driven on facts and not about feelings, mostly about numbers. And then it's more simpler to evaluate, be rational on that. Yeah. That's it.
I think everything is tied together somehow, which we are just on a learning journey on figuring out which tools are out there and how we can use them to be successful, and not to learn yet another YAML syntax wrapped into something else, but just generate the stuff. And either we use JSONnet or we use something else, but it needs to be more approachable, because I personally struggled a lot to write the best PromQL query. And once I found it, it's like, oh, copy, paste. But every time you do something on repeat, it should be automated. It should be hidden from you. And I think it's a great way to find a unique specification with OpenSLO, and also to have UI abilities and also CLI to generate these. And maybe in the future we can also find ways to machine learning, I don't know, something which detects that there is a load balancer in your system and does that automatically for you, or something which going a little more easy and saying, I'm monitoring a website, I have an HTTP check, I have some response times, and I want to add an SLO on that. Like have a suggestion in the front end or on the CLI saying, hey, maybe you want to add an SLO to it. Kit, this is your call, adding a meme.
Put a SLO on it. I actually, it's funny on the YAML generation piece. I know Zach has been doing, I don't want to put him on the spot, but I know Zach's been doing some work in this space, because there was a little project he's got going where he's generating YAML for different environments. I don't know, Zach, if you want to share a little bit about what you're doing there, because I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I mean, at OutSystems we have a fairly healthy scale. And we have lots of SLOs that we want to apply to lots of different environments, and they're very, very similar. And so what we've done is we've generated SLO YAML files, and then we've turned those into templates where we can drop in specific pieces of the metadata spec and specific pieces inside of queries. And so that we can then just build another config file to pick up that template, populate them, and then use a CI/CD system to roll those out and start applying those YAMLs. And so that took us from taking an engineer that doesn't have a lot of experience with SLOs and being able to understand, like, hey, these are the most critical parts to go apply this SLO template to many environments. And so that we can start building those kind of cheat ahead config files so that we can go and apply, a set of SLOs to 100 customers in a day by using, generating a SLO YAML file, kind of doing some fast and dirty templatizing, and then being able to go back, populate those variables and apply. I mean, that's a game changer for us. And that's one of the things that, like, when I look at where OpenSLO started and where we're at today, and then where we're going, what makes me really excited about that is that ability to generate that SLO YAML and then populate in the values that I need to it. I've not been the greatest contributor so far. I've been busy and haven't made a lot of the meetings, but that's one of the features that, like, I would like to work on is adding that to OSLO and OpenSLO, is to be able to say, give me a SLO YAML and then create a template based on these places in the spec and just spit that out of the tool for us, so that we know no matter what vendor we're using, that we can generate SLO templates so that we can then stick that in a CI/CD system, right? And so, like, if I need to go out and create 100,000 SLOs, I don't want to have to send an army of people to go out and do that. I would like to be able to do that with machines and save a bunch of engineering time, right? And then if I can do that, I can then go to my leadership and say, look at all this engineering time we saved. Let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah, that's kind of what we did with JSON and just like generating the PromQL itself. I do think that having generated the spec for OpenSLO is kind of cool, because it is a bit more high level and really then templates the most important aspects and hides the implementation detail. At the same time, I do think we can do better as a industry, and I think you already have an amazing Nobl9 UI. So I would love to see some way of like integrating the UI and the templating there, because I always feel like falling into the trap of just templating everything, and I definitely been there, and then it's not really approachable for the user in the end again. So I do think there is a difference for like beginners that just want to use the UI, and then like hardcore pro users that just really want to like generate everything, right?
Yeah,
So
it's like having the command line and the API and the UI. I think this is like a very important design point, and this is something we're seeing this in all the like modern cloud platforms and open source projects. It's like the API is so important, the command lines are so important. Getting it so that you have this ergonomics for the developer is so critical. But then we can't forget about our beginner users, right? And the people who want to visualize and they want to click through stuff, they want to get guided tours. I think it would be really interesting, especially in I think this is part of my inspiration of the Hello World, bringing it back to that discussion, is if we could create some public resources of data sets and queries, because we're all saying, we need a PromQL, we need this, we need that. But what I think we're missing from the kind of the SLO working code, I think there's a lot of SLO literature, right? I think what we're missing from the SLO working code is really kind of like ready data sets, ready examples, so that people don't have to also struggle with the existential question of what matters to my customers, right? We can say, okay, like here's something where it exists. We may have some assumptions about what matters to these mythical customers of an example data set. And then we can build really strong working examples and then plug into these different technologies. And they show Pyrra and OpenSLO and how the GitLab workflow works and how the Nobl9 piece works. And we can put all these pieces together. as a public resource. This is what I think would be very cool. I just don't know if anybody's willing to work on it, but I think we would be. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like for the demo for Pura, I already have like category response errors and latency, for example. So I do think that, especially given the familiarity, weird word, with HTTP for most people, I do think that like just like 99% of like all the nines of availability that you want to have for a given HTTP server really makes sense, because I do think that like hides away like the complexity of learning about something else. It's just HTTP, and that's at least like for me personally, usually what I think of like as the hello world. But just giving my opinion here.
I wonder if we should start under OpenSLO a new repo called Hello SLO, and we could create a new project there, and maybe we could put some ideas and things like that. Maybe we can propose this with Ian and the other OpenSLO folks, but I think that could be a cool place to house the work. And then we can point to some of these other projects or other data sets or other things that might be useful for that effort.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely in. I do think that also, because like Nobl9 supports more than just Prometheus, like most of these systems do have like some notion of like HTTP servers, right? For example. So that's kind of the entire point, is like, how do you measure with Prometheus as a backend? How do you measure with like, whatever system there is, basically like with the, with kind of like a same Nginx metric, for example, just a different backend. And I do think that that would be a fantastic thing, but I'm 100% on board like doing this in OpenSLO. I think that would be a great place to have it.
You want to file a issue or pull request or something? Come on, let's make it real. Live
actionables. Sure thing.
Live GitHubbing, yeah.
So we could also follow up on the idea of creating a Hello World SLO app or container or something, because I think this is, at least I struggle to understand how to, like, where to get started, and having something which generates metrics and examples would be awesome. And I think OpenSLO is the right place for it, defining the specification and also providing a, I don't know, auto-generated website later on with all the resources and the Hello World demo.
Yep, probably what's coming now to my mind. So when we are talking about Prometheus, so what we can use there, instead of writing their own application, instrumenting the application. So because we said, okay, let's use a load balancer or something else. So probably we can leverage the black box exporter and monitoring a simple website to get the results from that bed and making on that an SLO. So then you can.
Yep. Just to kind of like, let me quickly share the screen again. Also, to not work on the issue that I started filing, but to show you the demo.
That's
again,
what I thought you were going to show, by the way. I thought you were going to, hey, let me show you how to file an issue. You already opened it. Good man.
But taking like jumping on the bandwagon here, I thought about like having just like these load balancer metrics, and in here, for example, there is Caddy, which is the web server that I'm using for this. But I already started like with a demo app, and I'm happily contributing that upstream. Or I mean, like it's already open source, but like I'm happy putting this into OpenSLO again, where these metrics are just counters in memory exposing this, and we can kind of like just fake having load balancer metrics. Like, I mean, like the Nginx metrics are kind of well known at this point, for example. So we could just like not even have a Nginx running, but just like synthetically generate these metrics, and then we can work with them. I do think that's possible. And yeah, because I'm showing or wanted to show this, like I already started with, for example, these hourly things where like just a timer, and at the hour it will just like error for 5 minutes, for example, giving you like funny patterns over the week. So we can use the black box exporter, but I do think we can even like fake it. The question is how good random data do we get that is somewhat representable of real SLOs? I think that was like where I kind of struggled with, because even this like kind of flattens out over time, making some nice graphs, but that's about it. It's not really like a real world example yet. Right, I'm going back to finding the issue.
Where is OpenSLO.com being hosted? Is that running Nginx in the background? Maybe we could dog food like the metrics from the website, and the more you the more often you press command reload or F5, the more metrics you generate. I don't know. Could be an interesting idea to say, hey, we are kind of monitoring ourselves or breaking ourselves.
Yeah, it might be cool also to look at. I like that idea a lot. But if we could add something, maybe even with some a load generator too, right? So you could have, maybe we could host a page where you can use, I'm thinking like K6 or something like that, right? And do some, put some load profiles in, because I think this is one of the challenges, is also getting some data and having an error rate. And it's almost like a controlled chaos we could add to it to generate. But I really like the idea of kind of dog fooding it.
Yeah, I like the idea of running some K6 to throw some synthetic load on things so that we can see variation in the data. That's a really good idea. I've done it in the past when testing testing to see if the SLO was going to blow up on me or not. So that's a great idea.
And then also using the K6 data. So, and putting also some SLOs on that. So, but I know when I used K6, I think 2 or 3 months ago, so that they don't support Prometheus, so you can only export the K6 metrics in StatsD, but that's not a problem. So then you can also grab it. And then with the StatsD exporter back to Prometheus when you would say Prometheus as data source.
There's another possible resource we could add in, in Alex Hidalgo's book, there's a mythical project called Wienerschürzel. It's one of his examples. We actually created the site, and we haven't really done anything with it yet, but it's up and live. And it'd be kind of cool to add some SLOs on top of that and show that as examples in the Hello SLO as well. And then it would be, an exercise for the readers. You know what I mean? It could tie back. That was kind of the idea.
Yeah, that would be great as well, like tying it back to the book for sure.
Yeah.
Whatever we can figure out, like, I think that works.
Amazing. Awesome. Now I have so many ideas in my head, and we have so little time, but it was really great to build the bridge from learning something new about Pura and also peeking into Nobl9 and seeing how it works with Prometheus, to further discussing SLO for beginners, and now coming to ideas, creating like the Hello World application and the Getting Started guys. Looking forward to collaborate and contribute. With that, I would say let's wrap it up for today. Thanks everyone for joining. We should do it again sometime, and see how far everything was going. Hopefully we have OpenSLO, not OpenSLO, sorry, SLOconf next year. I think there is some kid is already in the planning mode for hosting. And
well, you guys think we should do it again or what?
Yeah, definitely. I was kind of expecting that.
Yeah, for sure. I don't even know why you're asking.
I'm joking. I'm joking. We have the only question is the format. It's the only question. We'll be talking about it soon. I'm sure you guys will be invited to the planning committee.
Okay,
always
so
happy.
We will be hosting SLOconf next year and the year after and the year after, and we will bring SLO to everyone who's been asking themselves why they don't have it yet. Yeah, and until then, I wish you a pleasant afternoon, evening, wherever you're located, and see you online and hopefully see you in person soon. Bye-bye on
Thanks
YouTube.
again. Thanks, Michi.
Thanks so much.